Welcome back to the deep dive. I hope you are sitting down for this one, or maybe taking a long walk, because the stack of reports, transcripts, and economic forecasts we have to get through today is, well, it's heavy.
It is heavy. It's dense. And frankly, it's a little bit startling.
Startling is the right word. Today, we are transporting ourselves, mentally at least, to the snowy peaks of Davos, Switzerland. It is January 2026. The air is crisp, the streets are icy, the hot chocolate is outrageously expensive, and the 56th annual general meeting of the World Economic Forum is in full swing.
It is indeed. And, usually when we look at Davos, we expect a certain vibe. We expect a lot of polite nodding, people in very nice suits using buzzwords like synergy and stakeholder capitalism.
Right, without actually saying much of anything.
Exactly. It's often criticized, and maybe fairly, as a talking shop for the elite, where they just kind of pat themselves on the back.
A club. But looking at the source material we have today, the actual transcripts and the session notes from this week in 2026, this year feels fundamentally different.
Oh, absolutely.
The buzzwords have been replaced by some very stark, very specific warnings.
It feels less like a corporate retreat and more like a crisis management center. There is a tension in these documents that you can almost cut with a knife.
That's a good way to put it.
We are seeing two completely opposing visions of the future being presented back to back on the same stage in the same week.
And that's the core of our deep dive today. We're calling this abundance versus the tsunami.
Good title.
Because those are the two metaphors that dominated the headlines. On one side, you have this technocratic vision of utopia. We have the transcript of a one-on-one conversation between Elon Musk and Larry Fink, the chairman of BlackRock.
A heavy hitter session.
For sure. And Musk is painting a picture of sustainable abundance, a world of robot labor and space-based supercomputers.
And then, almost like a splash of ice-cold water, you have the economic reality check.
Yeah.
We have the reports from the IMF's Growth Dilemma session, led by Kristalina Georgieva. And she isn't talking about utopia. She's warning of a labor market tsunami.
And that's a direct quote, right? Tsunami. That wasn't just a headline writer getting creative.
It is.
Yeah.
That's her word. And think about that metaphor. A tsunami isn't something you ride. It's something that wipes out the coastline. It's a force of nature that you can't really stop.
So our mission today is to synthesize these two massive perspectives. We need to figure out, are we heading for the Star Trek future where nobody has to work because we have sustainable abundance? Or are we heading for an economic disaster where nobody can work because the tsunami washed their job away?
Or, and this is the tricky part, are we heading for both?
Both at the same time.
Because the transition period is usually where the pain is. So let's try to separate the sci-fi hype from the hard economic data.
Okay, where do we start? I want to start with the timeline. Because often when we talk about AI on this show, the dates are fuzzy. It's always soon or in the coming decade or eventually.
Right. It's always safely in the future.
Musk didn't do that this time. He was uncharacteristically precise. And honestly, the dates he gave are jarring.
They really are. They force you to pay attention in a different way.
Okay, let's unpack this. The first thing I noticed in the transcript is that Musk made a distinction between AI beating a single human and AI beating all humans. Walk us through that distinction, because it sounds like splitting hairs, but it's actually crucial.
It is the defining distinction of the next 5 years. During his conversation with Larry Fink, Musk laid out two specific milestones. The first milestone is when AI exceeds the intelligence of any single human being.
So let's clarify what that means. We aren't talking about a calculator that can do math faster than me or a chess computer. We're talking about general intelligence.
Exactly. This isn't narrow AI. This is the moment where an AI model isn't just good at chess or writing poetry, but is effectively smarter across the board than the single smartest human being on Earth.
So you take the most brilliant person you can imagine.
Right. Imagine Einstein, von Neumann, and maybe Leonardo da Vinci all rolled into one. When does the machine beat that person at complex, creative, multi-domain problem solving?
Okay, so that's the benchmark and his prediction.
By the end of next year.
The end of next year.
Since the conference is in January 2026, he means late 2027.
Late 2027. Okay, let's pause on that. That is essentially tomorrow in the grand scheme of things.
It is.
I feel like most people are still getting used to using ChatGPT to write emails, and he's saying in less than 2 years, the machine will be smarter than the smartest person who ever lived. That feels huge.
It is an incredibly aggressive timeline.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the AI safety community, for instance, would say that's recklessly fast.
Yeah.
But if you look at the compute scaling, The amount of raw processing power being thrown at these models, it's not mathematically impossible.
You just follow the curve.
You follow the exponential curve. We've seen the models jump from GPT-4 to the next iterations very, very quickly. The leap in capabilities in just a year or two has been astonishing, but that's just the appetizer.
Right, because that's only the first milestone.
The main course is what he calls the singularity, or the second milestone.
Questions?
The moment AI exceeds the combined intelligence of all humanity.
Every brain on Earth, every single one, 8 billion people networked together through the internet, through books, through all of our collective knowledge, the cognitive output of the entire species.
The aggregate intelligence.
Right.
And he predicts that will happen in approximately 5 years.
5 years.
So we're looking at 2030 or 2031.
Wow. I mean, usually these predictions are safe because they are set for 2050 or 2060. The predictor will be retired or, not around to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
But 5 years? We are going to be here. We're going to see if this happens. This is a testable hypothesis in our immediate future.
That's the thing about exponential growth curves. We have talked about this before. Humans think linearly. We think 1, 2, 3, 4. Exponential technology goes 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32.
It feels like nothing is happening for a long time.
It looks flat for a long time, and then suddenly the line goes vertical. Musk is arguing we are right at that elbow of the curve. He's saying the next 5 years will see more change than the last 50.
And if you look at the trajectory of computing power and model efficiency over the last 3 years leading up to this 2026 conference, it's not an unfounded prediction. Maybe it's optimistic, but it's not coming from nowhere.
No, it's an extrapolation. A very bold one, but it's based on the trend lines.
So if we accept this timeline, even just for the sake of argument, that leads us directly to his second big point. If we have this superintelligence, what does it actually do?
Right.
Because being smart in a box is one thing, but affecting the physical world is another. And this is where he dropped the phrase sustainable abundance.
Sustainable abundance. It sounds lovely, doesn't it?
It sounds great, like a marketing slogan for a wellness resort or something.
But in Musk's worldview, it's a very specific economic condition. It's not just a feeling. It's a state of the economy.
And it involves robots. A lot of robots.
A whole lot of robots. The mechanism for this abundance is the decoupling of economic output from human labor. Musk posits that we are moving toward a world where humanoid robots will outnumber humans.
Outnumber humans. So more than 8 billion robots walking around.
Eventually, yes. That's the vision. The logic is that if robots can perform labor manufacturing, mining, farming, logistics, construction, all of it, then the cost of labor drops effectively to the cost of electricity and raw materials.
Which changes everything. Right now, if I buy a car or a house or even a sandwich, a huge chunk of that price is paying the people who made it, transported it, and sold it.
Exactly. Labor is the primary input cost of civilization. It's woven into every single thing we buy and do.
So you're saying take that out of the equation.
If you replace that labor with a robot that costs, say, less than a car to build, and it can work 20 hours a day for just the cost of electricity, the cost of all goods and services plummets.
You reach a point where things are so cheap to make.
You hit a saturation point, as he called it, where everyone can have pretty much whatever they want because it's so cheap to produce. That is the definition of abundance.
It's the post-scarcity economy that sci-fi writers have been dreaming about for decades. Star Trek's replicators, basically.
In a sense, yeah. But Musk isn't just writing about it, he's selling it. He gave an update on the Tesla humanoid robot, right?
He did, Optimus.
And this connects back to that end of next year timeline. He stated that Tesla intends to start sales of the humanoid robot to the general public by the end of 2027.
That seems incredibly fast. I mean, we've seen the prototypes folding laundry and, walking around the lab. But selling to the general public, in people's homes, that implies a level of safety and reliability that is just... It's hard to wrap my head around.
It is.
If my phone crashes, it's annoying. If a 200-pound robot carrying my groceries crashes in my kitchen.
It's a disaster. And that is exactly what he emphasized. He claimed they will have high reliability and safety. Of course he would say that. But what stood out to me was the use case he specifically highlighted.
What was it?
He didn't just say they will wash your dishes or they will mow your lawn, though presumably they'll do that too.
What did he say?
He said they would be used for childcare and elder care.
Whoa, okay, stop. That is a massive leap. We went from robots in a car factory welding doors, which we're all used to robots holding your baby.
Precisely. And that is the societal shift we need to pay attention to. It's one thing to automate a warehouse. It's another thing entirely to automate the intimate care of our most vulnerable populations. The trust required is on a whole different level.
I'm just trying to picture this. A robot nanny. On one hand, I can see the utility. It's undeniable. We have an aging population in almost every developed country. We have a childcare crisis. There literally aren't enough human workers to go around.
The demographics are undeniable. Japan, Europe, even China now. We have a massive shortage of hands to care for the elderly. Musk is suggesting technology fills that gap.
But on the other hand, it feels cold. It feels disconnected. Is care just a series of physical tasks, feeding, changing, lifting, giving medicine on time? Or is there an emotional transfer, a human connection that a machine, no matter how intelligent, cannot replicate?
And that raises profound questions about the nature of care. And even love, I suppose. Musk's vision suggests that the utility, the sheer abundance of care, outweighs that philosophical concern.
Or maybe he believes the AI will be so advanced that the distinction won't matter, that it can simulate empathy so well that we can't tell the difference.
That's the other possibility, that the AI companion is so good, so patient, so engaging, that it's actually better than a tired, overworked human caregiver in some respects.
It's the Turing test of parenting. If the robot is gentle, tells good stories, never loses its temper, and keeps the kids safe, does it matter that it doesn't have a soul?
That is the question of the decade, isn't it?
Right.
It's a huge ethical minefield. But before we get to that philosophical debate, there is a very practical, very physical hurdle to overcoming this vision, a massive one.
Okay.
You can't just build a billion robots and a super intelligent AI without powering them.
Right. The juice, the electricity. We've heard about the strain on the grid already. Data centers are power hogs. AI data centers are even worse.
They are. And Musk identified electricity as the primary constraint to AI expansion. He said, and this is a direct quote from the session, the only constraint on AI expansion is power.
Not algorithms, not data, not talent, just raw energy.
That's his claim. Everything else could be solved, but physics is physics. You need the watts.
So we're stuck. Or does he have a plan for that too?
Oh, you know he has a plan. And in classic Musk fashion, it's not just build more power plants or invest in fusion.
Let me guess. It involves going up.
It's go to space.
Of course it is. Space data centers.
Solar-powered AI data centers in orbit.
Okay, let's break this down because on the surface, it sounds insane. I mean, it sounds like something from a Bond villain's plan. Why would you launch a data center into space? Isn't it incredibly expensive to get stuff up there? And how do you maintain it?
It does sound extreme, but when you look at the physics and the thermodynamics of computing, it actually solves the two biggest problems of AI computing simultaneously.
Okay, what are they?
Power generation and heat dissipation.
Power and cooling.
The two eternal problems of computers. Let's start with power. On Earth, solar power is intermittent. The sun goes down, clouds roll in. You get maybe 6 to 8 hours of peak generation if you're lucky, depending on where you are.
Right, and data centers need to run 24/7. So on Earth, you need massive batteries or some other form of energy storage to store that power for the night, which adds a ton of cost and complexity.
Exactly. But in orbit, there is no night. If you position it correctly, you have 24-hour continuous unfiltered sunshine. Musk stated that the solar efficiency in space is 5 times higher than ground-based systems.
5 times higher. That is a massive efficiency jump.
It is. You strip away the atmospheric interference, you strip away the day-night cycle, and you just have constant high-intensity energy beaming down on your panels.
Okay, so that's the power side. What's the second part? The cooling.
The cooling is arguably even more important. AI processors, the GPUs, and the custom chips they're building generate immense amounts of heat.
I can hear the fan on my laptop spinning just thinking about it.
Right, now scale that up by 1,000,000. On Earth, we use billions of gallons of water and massive industrial air conditioning systems to keep data centers from literally melting down. It's a huge environmental and economic cost.
And space is cold.
Space is a vacuum. It is naturally incredibly cold, just a few degrees above absolute zero. You can radiate heat away directly into the void without needing water or compressors or any of that complex machinery. The environment itself solves the cooling problem for free.
So the physics checks out. Unlimited sun, free cooling. It's actually a pretty elegant engineering solution if you can get past the initial what factor.
It is elegant. But you're right to ask about the logistics. Getting thousands of tons of servers and solar panels into orbit, that's the bottleneck.
And that's where his other company comes in.
That brings us to the third leg of the stool. We have Tesla making the robots and consuming the AI. We have the space data centers providing the compute. And we have SpaceX providing the transport.
It's a closed loop, a vertically integrated ecosystem for the future.
It is. Musk reaffirmed the goal to reduce space access costs to 1/100th, 11/100th of current levels. That is a staggering reduction.
How?
He's betting on the completion of full rocket reuse technology with Starship. The goal is to turn rockets into airplanes land, refuel, and fly again in a matter of hours. If he can do that, the cost of putting that infrastructure up there collapses.
So in his mind, it all fits together. The rockets build the space data centers power the AI runs the robots, and the robots create the abundance on Earth.
That is the vision. It's a vertical integration of the future of humanity, all running through his companies.
It sounds perfect. It sounds almost too perfect, which is why we need to come back down to Earth. Because while Musk is looking at the stars and seeing abundance, the people managing the actual economy here on the ground are looking at the data and seeing something very, very different.
Yes. This is a hard pivot. Let's go back into the conference hall for the Growth Dilemma session and the comments from Kristalina Georgieva, the managing director of the IMF.
She used a very different metaphor. She didn't call it abundance. She called it a tsunami.
Tsunami hitting the labor market. And again, that is a terrifying image. A tsunami isn't something you surf, it's something that destroys everything in its path. There's no upside to a tsunami when it hits.
What are the numbers behind that fear? This isn't just a feeling she has. This is based on IMF analysis.
It is. Their global analysis projects that 40% of all jobs worldwide will be affected by AI in the coming years.
40%, 1 in 4 jobs, almost 1 in 2.
But it's worse for developed countries, isn't it?
Much worse. In advanced economies, the US, Europe, Japan, South Korea, that number rises to 60%.
60%. So if you were in a room with 10 people in one of those countries, 6 of them are going to have their livelihoods significantly disrupted. That's a majority.
And disrupted is the key word. It doesn't necessarily mean fired. It could mean your job changes so much it's unrecognizable. But for many, let's be honest, it will mean displacement.
Yes. Your skills become obsolete.
And this is where we have to reconcile the two views. Musk says robots replace labor and we get abundance. The IMF says AI hits labor and we get a tsunami. Are they describing the same event, just with different emotional labels? One from the perspective of the inventor, the other from the perspective of the person on the beach.
I think they are. The abundance is the end state, potentially. The tsunami is the transition. And transitions are messy. They are painful. History shows that. The Industrial Revolution created immense wealth, but it also created decades of brutal disruption, poverty, and social unrest.
There is a really interesting nuance in the IMF report about who gets hit. Usually we think of automation hitting low-skilled jobs first, the factory worker, the truck driver, the cashier. But the IMF found something different this time.
Yes. This is what some are calling the productivity paradox, or the skill twist. It's one of the most counterintuitive findings. The IMF found that AI, in its current form, primarily boosts the productivity of high-skilled workers.
So, knowledge workers.
Lawyers, coders, analysts, architects, writers. The people who sit in front of a computer all day. The AI acts as a co-pilot for them.
So the AI makes the smart people faster.
Yes, dramatically faster. A single lawyer can do the work of 10. A single coder can ship features that used to take a whole team. But here's the paradox.
Okay.
If high-skilled workers become super productive, it might ironically increase the demand for low-skilled labor, or rather, labor that requires physical presence and human touch, which AI currently, before Musk's robots arrive, cannot do.
So the lawyer can write 50 contracts an hour instead of 5, but you still need someone to fix the plumbing in their office, serve the coffee at the cafe they work from, or care for their elderly parents.
Exactly. Until the humanoid robots are ubiquitous and cheap, we might see a strange polarization of the job market.
What does that look like?
The middle of the job market, the white-collar information processing jobs that can be automated by AI, gets hollowed out. Meanwhile, the very top, the strategic oversight and creative direction, and the very bottom, the physical services, actually grow.
That sounds like a recipe for a massive inequality.
It is a massive risk. If the productivity gains all go to the owners of the AI and the few high-skilled operators who can leverage it, and everyone else is fighting for a limited pool of service jobs with stagnant wages, that's not abundance. That's a caste system.
A new kind of digital feudalism.
That's the fear.
And speaking of economies trying to figure this out, there was a mention in the source material from Neil Ferguson, the historian from Stanford, about how the U.S. and China are positioning themselves.
Yes. He weighed in on this. He noted that both the U.S. and China are in the midst of a massive capital investment boom. They are pouring unbelievable amounts of money into chips, data centers, and energy infrastructure.
Why? Beyond just the geopolitical competition, the beating the other guy instinct.
He argues that they're both making the same bet. They're betting that this productivity boom, this 0.8% boost to global growth the IMF mentioned, will be the magic bullet that solves their debt problems.
Oh, so.
Both countries are heavily leveraged. They have huge national debts. The only way out of that kind of debt without a catastrophic crisis or default is to grow your way out. Your economy has to grow faster than your debt. They are hoping AI is the engine of that growth.
So it's a race against the debt clock. Can we innovate our way out of our fiscal problems before they catch up to us?
Precisely. And interestingly, the IMF actually raised its growth forecasts for the U.S. specifically, citing deregulation and other business-friendly measures. So there is optimism about the macro numbers. The GDP pie will get bigger. The fundamental question is, who gets the slices?
Which brings us back full circle to Musk, because he's arguably the person who stands to benefit the most from this entire shift. But oddly enough, despite talking about robots and space servers, he spent a good chunk of his time at Davos talking about philosophy and politics.
It was quite the contrast. And you have to remember the context here, which makes it even more surprising. Musk used to mock Davos relentlessly.
Oh, yeah, I remember the tweets. He called it an unelected world government and a boring elite social club.
And yet, here he is in 2026, not just attending, but he's the keynote speaker, the star of the show that everyone is there to see.
The ultimate insider. There was a funny moment, well, funny in a dark geopolitical way, where he cracked a joke about Donald Trump's Board of Peace.
Yes, this was a moment that, according to the transcript notes, really captured the atmosphere in the room. So Trump had set up this Board of Peace. Musk, on stage, joked that when he first heard about it, he thought they meant peace, as in P-I-E-C-E.
Like, I'll take a piece of this country and a piece of that one.
Exactly. He joked, I thought it meant a piece of Greenland, a piece of Venezuela.
That is sharp. That's a biting piece of satire for that particular audience.
The audience laughed, but the reports describe it as that nervous kind of laughter. It highlighted the geopolitical tensions in the room, without Musk explicitly taking a political side. He played the jester, pointing out the absurdity of the world stage.
It's a way of being critical without being partisan.
Right, but then he shifted from the jester to the, the prophet, or the philosopher king. He started talking about aliens, or more specifically, the lack thereof.
The Fermi paradox.
The Fermi paradox. This is a core part of Musk's internal drive, his personal operating system, and he brought it to the Davos stage. He pointed out that SpaceX has, at this point in 2026, over 9,000 satellites in orbit.
That's a lot of eyes in the sky covering every inch of the planet constantly.
And he said, in all that time, with all those satellites, they have never had to dodge an alien spacecraft. Not once.
So no UFOs hiding behind the moon?
In his view, no. The data is null. And for him, that data point leads to a very somber, very profound conclusion. Consciousness, as we know it, is incredibly rare.
He used a metaphor for it, didn't he?
He called it a small candle in a vast darkness.
That's a beautiful, if lonely, image.
It is. And it's what drives his imperative for Mars. He argued that we must expand to other planets not just for real estate or mining or adventure, but as a backup drive. A backup for the flame.
A backup drive for consciousness.
Yes. His logic is, if something happens to Earth, a meteor, a supervolcano, a nuclear war, or maybe an AI gone wrong, and that candle goes out here, it might go out everywhere in the galaxy. Forever. Unless we have a skark somewhere else.
It's so interesting that the man who is building the superintelligence that might disrupt our entire society is also the man most obsessed with preserving human consciousness from existential threats.
It is the ultimate contradiction of Elon Musk. He is accelerating the very forces that cause instability AI automation with one hand, while simultaneously trying to build the insurance policy against extinction with the other.
It's a gamble on which one gets there first.
A very big gamble.
He ended with a piece of advice that I think is worth chewing on. He said something about optimists and pessimists.
He said, it is better to be an optimist who is wrong than a pessimist who is right.
That's catchy, but what does it actually mean in practice? Let's unpack that.
I think it means that pessimism is paralyzing. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe the tsunami is coming and there's nothing you can do, you just stand there and get hit by the water. You drown.
But if you're an optimist...
You're an optimist, even a delusional one. You try to build a boat. You try to climb a hill. You try to solve the problem. His message to the world leaders at Davos was essentially, stop being afraid of the technology. Stop wringing your hands and start building the systems to manage it. Focus on problem solving, not on fear.
Focus on building the boat. Or in his case, the spaceship.
Exactly.
So where does that leave us? Let's try and synthesize all this. We've got, what, about 5 years on Musk's clock? 5 years until AI potentially outsmarts all of humanity combined.
Yeah.
5 years until robots might be walking our dogs and watching our kids. And in that same time frame, 60% of jobs in advanced economies get hit by an economic tsunami.
It leaves us with a very short window for adaptation. This isn't a generational shift anymore, where you have 30 years to adjust. It's a term of office shift. It's a business cycle shift. The speed is the defining characteristic.
For the listener tuning in, what is the takeaway? If you are sitting at your desk right now or driving to work, what do you do with this information? It's easy to just feel overwhelmed.
I think you have to go back to that skill twist the IMF mentioned. That's the most actionable piece of insight. If AI is going to handle the information processing, the logic, the coding, the legal drafting, the human value proposition has to shift to the things AI is, for now, bad at.
Which are?
Complex physical interaction, craftsmanship, things that require dexterity and a sense of the real world, at least until the robots get really, really good. High-level strategic synthesis, seeing the big picture that the AI, which is focused on the task, might miss. And crucially, empathy and human connection.
The care economy.
The care economy Musk mentioned might not just be for robots. It might be where the human premium remains. The therapist, the coach, the nurse, the great teacher, the roles that are about human-to-human connection.
So the advice is to double down on being human. Be the human that the robot can't easily replace.
Be the human. Be the creative spark. Be the strategic thinker. Be the candle. Don't try to compete with the AI at its own game of processing data. You'll lose.
And maybe, just maybe, keep an eye on those space launches.
Oh, for sure.
Because if they start putting servers up there in orbit, we know the timeline is real.
Indeed. The infrastructure doesn't lie. Watch the launches. That's the real-world metric.
I want to leave everyone with a thought to mull over as we close out. We talked a lot about Musk's candle in the dark metaphor, that consciousness is rare and precious and must be protected. But we also talked about a future where we hand over our labor, our caregiving, and eventually our intelligence to machines. So here's the question.
Go on.
If we outsource our thinking to the AI and our caring to the robots and our working to the machines, are we protecting the flame? Or are we outsourcing the very things that make the flame special in the first place? Are we putting the candle in a protective lantern, or are we just letting someone else hold it for us? That is the question. Are we preserving humanity by building a safety net, or are we replacing it by making ourselves obsolete?
Something to think about. Thank you for diving deep with us today. Stay curious, stay human, and we'll see you in the next one.